Om Vishnupad Padmang Savarivajagacharya Asta Saraswati Sri Maharaj Divine Grace of Hai Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Sri Nrsimha Bhagavan Ki Jai Gaura Premanande all glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padastaya Balavesh Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharya Sri Sinnavari Paschacharastaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today is a very auspicious day for the whole universe, but especially devotees relish this wonderful event, the appearance of Lord Nrsimha. Srila Prabhupada was also very fond of Lord Nrsimha. He gave a number of lectures discussing this wonderful appearance, especially for devotees because it shows how the Lord protects his devotees. So therefore it's very dear to the servants of the Lord. Today we're going to be reading from the 7th canto, chapter 8, entitled The Lord Slays the King of the Demons, text number 1. Shri Narada Uvacha Shri Narada Uvacha Ata Dhaitya Sutta Sarve Ata Dhaitya Sutta Sarve Shutva Tad Anuvarnitam Shutva Tad Anuvarnitam Jagrihur Naravaidyaitvan Jagrihur Naravadyatvan Naiva Gurvanu Shikshatam Naiva Gurvanu Shikshatam. Sri Narada Uvacha Ata Daitya Sutta Sarve Shutva Taranuvarnitam Jagrihuna Niravadyatvan Naiva Gurvanu Shikshatam. Vacha Naiva Gurvanu Shikshatam. Sri Narada Uvacha Atataita Sutta Sarve Shutva Tadanuvarnitam Jagrihu Niravaidyaatvan Naiva Gurvanu Shikshatam. Uvacha Narada Uvacha sarve Yutva tadanuvarnitam Jagrihu naibadainatvan Naiva gurvanu shikshitam. Ladies, Tvataranuvarnitam Jagrihu niravaidnyatvan Shikshitam. Sri Narada Vacha. Sri Narada Muni said, Ata, thereupon, Daitya Sutaha, the sons of the demons, the class friends of Prahlad Maharaj, Sarve, all, Shrutva, hearing, Tat, by him, Prahlad, Anuvarnitam, the statements about devotional life, Jagrihu, accepted, Niravadhyatvat, due to the supreme utility of that instruction. Na, not. Eva, indeed. Guru anu shikshitam, that which was taught by their teachers. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Narada Muni continued, all the sons of the demons appreciated the transcendental instructions of Prahlad Maharaj and took them very seriously. They rejected the materialistic instructions given by their teachers Sanda and Amarka. Purport. This is the effect of the preaching of a pure devotee like Prahlad Maharaj. If a devotee is qualified, sincere, and serious about Krishna consciousness, and if he follows the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, as Prahlad Maharaj did when preaching the instructions he had received from Narada Muni, his preaching is effective. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.25.25, Satam pasangam mimaviryo samvido bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kata. If one tries to understand the discourses given by the Sat, or pure devotees, those instructions will be very pleasing to the ear and appealing to the heart. Thus, if one is inspired to take to Krishna consciousness, and if one practices the process in his life, he is surely successful in returning home back to Godhead. By the grace of Prahlad Maharaj, all his class friends, the sons of the demons, became Vaishnavas. They did not like hearing from their so-called teachers, Sanda and Amarka, who were interested only in teaching them about diplomacy, politics, economic development, and similar topics meant exclusively for sense gratification. Om Ajnanatimidam Dasya Gyananjana Shalaka Chakshun Militam Dena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Ugam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Gam Yadgiptam Mande Sigram Dinatanam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Sri Nrsimha Jaya Nrsimha Jaya Jaya Nrsimha Prahlada Desha Jaya Padmukha Paringa. So, Srila Prabhupada very nicely points out here that points out the effects of good association. Satang prasangam mama virya sangbiro bhavante hritkarna rasayana kata. It's understood from the Vedic literatures that the association of devotees and discussion of the pastimes and activities are very pleasing to the heart. And gradually, by hearing these discussions, one becomes advanced on the path of devotional service. And this is the first principle in advancing in spiritual practices, that one has to hear from the proper source. And then one is on the right path, right? Just like if before there was GPS, we'd have to go to the corner store or the gas station and ask somebody which way is it to this such and such destination. And I don't know if you have any experience, but sometimes you would have to talk to 3 or 4 people before you actually got to the place, or in the right direction even. More often than not, it's if you go here, you go there, take a left, right, and you'll get there, and take a left at this store. And anyway, it was very confusing. But if one hears from the right source, then one is on the right path. In this case, Prahlad Maharaj was speaking to his classmates who were they were sons of demons, and interested, at least at some point, in the topics their teachers, Sanda and Amarka, were teaching, right? Diplomacy, politics, economic development, sense gratification, so and so. But by his association, they got on the right path. And as Prabhupada quotes this wonderful verse, if one is on that right path, then one is freed. You're properly situated. And being properly situated, gradually that attraction develops, and one becomes fixed in devotional life and devotional service. Again, this is the effects of proper instruction. This pastime is very, again, instructive for us, because we also have experience of materialistic teachers, such as Sanda and Amarka. Practically nowadays in school, that's all you hear, is how to advance in politics, how to advance in economics, how to become very diplomatic. They have so many different universities and subjects, and it's all based on developing that sense gratification exclusively. There's no interest in spiritual subject matter. So Sanda and Amarka were very good at that. And when they saw that Prahlad was instructing his classmates in spiritual subject matter, they became very alarmed. What is this? This is not good in our classroom. And so they, being very loyal servants of the king, because they were also in the same mood as their Lord and Master, Hiranyakasipu, they went to the king, Hiranyakashipu, and they told him what was going on here. And when Lord Nrsimha, when Hiranyakasipu heard this, he became very angry. So much so that it's compared to the hissing of a snake. Just like a snake, when you step on it, it becomes very aggravated, very agitated. If you've ever been around snakes, if you poke them, they become very aggressive. I remember one time we were up in Badger, and they were setting up one of the temple there, the property where there was a little mobile home, and they were establishing this little place for the Gornitai deities that were part of the community, that were the center of the community. So there was some construction going on. They were having all kinds of problems for some reason. Then one day, just not far from the entranceway, some little kids were playing, and they turned over a rock. And lo and behold, what was there? It was a whole bed of rattlesnakes. And the kids were, of course, alarmed, and they called the devotees who were working on the building, come over and see what's going on here. So the devotees ran over, and these snakes were, they were circling around, relatively calm. And then somebody poked one of the snakes, and all of a sudden, they just started hissing and rattling. And, as unfortunate as it may be, we disposed of the snakes. And after that day, the temple really flourished. It did so much nicer. The devotees were very enthusiastic to come and participate in the daily program. But this hissing and anger was also exhibited by Hiranyakasipu when he heard that, what is going on here? This boy is so impudent. So he called him, and Prahlad came, and he began to rebuke this little boy, right? He said, you obstinate fool, why are you speaking such things? I'm going to send you to the place of Yamaraj, to the house of Yamaraj. He was so angry. And Prahlad didn't react. Instead, he began to instruct his father. Can you imagine? One when his eyebrows move, the universe trembles. And this little boy, he's standing in front of this powerful person, and he begins to instruct him without any fear. As Prabhupada points out here in this wonderful purport, and we also understand that Lord Nrsimha, he gives protection to his devotees. So that's why he's so dear to us. So Prahlad, being fixed in his devotional service, began to instruct his father and instead told him that, my dear father, well, he didn't even call him my dear father, greatest of the demons, right? You shouldn't be so angry. Instead, you should learn how to control these 6 enemies. Right? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Instead, you should learn how to control your senses. He who makes the whole universe tremble is being instructed by this little boy that you should just control yourself. You shouldn't become so angry. And what did Nrsimha or Hiranyakasipu respond to that? He tells him that, you over-intelligent little rascal, I can see you're desiring to die. Isn't that this is the case? The materialistic persons, they don't want to be instructed by devotees. They become very angry when you call them on their nonsense. Right? They're so very fixed in their materialistic ways that as soon as you call them upon it, they become very, what is this? This is not good. I don't like this competition. So Hiranyakasipu also became very, very angry and began to rebuke his son, you over-intelligent little rascal. You desire to die, obviously. And if this Supreme Lord of yours is so powerful and omnipresent, then he must be everywhere, right? He must be also within this pillar. I know we're going to be touching on a few things that we're going to hear in greater detail this evening, but just for as an overview, this exchange between Prahlad and then the appearance of Nrsimhadev and how he disposes of Hiranyakasipu are very instructive for us. And again, we'll be hearing in greater detail this evening. But it's important to understand that the Lord is always there for his devotees. And of course he's everywhere. He says so in the Bhagavad Gita, that he's within the heart of all living beings. So Hiranyakasipu was saying, well, if this Lord is everywhere, then he must be here, there. He must be also in this pillar, right? And Prahlad, understanding the absolute truth, of course, yes, he's everywhere. Well, then, if he's there, I'm going to break this pillar, and he'll surely come and protect you. So Hiranyakasipu smashes the pillar, and there's a profound sound that came from that breaking, and it shook the whole universe. And even the devas were commenting that, oh, surely this is the end of us. There's such a powerful sound that came from this crashing of the pillar and this cloud. And all of a sudden, there's this beautiful form. And when Hiranyakashipu saw this, the first thing he did was he just tried to analyze this. What is this form? And who has such angry-looking eyes? And who has this very incredible shining mane of hair. If you've ever seen a close-up of lions or in person, they're very beautiful. This is one of their, you could say, their characteristics that are outstanding. Their beautiful mane. And so Hiranyakasipu was analyzing, who is this personality who has these angry-looking eyes and a beautiful mane, who has ears which are pointed, and this tongue which is sharp, and it's flapping back and forth like a serpent. And he has this well-built body with arms and beautiful ornaments and long nails. So he was quite astounded. What is this? Who is this? It must be a trick of Vishnu. They're coming to try and challenge me, thinking to kill me. But he was so delusional that he was thinking that who can kill me? Who can fight with me? And the materialists are in the same mentality. As soon as there's some challenge and death is inevitable, right? We know that. But still, they're so deluded. They're thinking, who can challenge us? We'll create some machine, or we'll do this in science or medicine, and we'll prolong our lives. We'll become immortal in so many different ways. But all for naught. We know that. So Hiranyakashipu was thinking, who can fight with me? I'm such a powerful personality. And so they began their battle. And Hiranyakashipu, thinking to be very advanced, just like sometimes the materialists, they think they can be very advanced in their sciences or in their lifestyles, whatever. He would fly here, fly there. He would disappear, appear on the ground, in the air. And in this way, they began to fight back and forth. While all the while, the Lord is playing just like Garuda plays with a snake. The snake is slithering here and there, and Garuda is just tapping it here and there. You ever see a cat play with a mouse? They just play with them. Tap it, let it run over here, tap it, play over. So back and forth. Of course, others, the denizens of heaven, when they saw that Hiranyakashipu had broken from the grasp of the Lord, they were aghast. Oh, this is a very fearful situation. But all the while, the Lord is simply playing with this fool, and just as a Garuda plays with a snake. Until finally, he decided to snatch him. And Prabhupada gives the example, just like a snake, it snatches a mouse. The mouse is running around, but when the snake wants to strike, it can easily strike. So in the same way, when the Lord wanted, he immediately snatched Hiranyakashipu. And we all know the wonderful how the story ends. He puts Hiranyakashipu on his lap and he bifurcates him, and was very angry all the while. So angry that after he had disposed of Hiranyakashipu, he sat down on Hiranyakashipu's throne and was seething. He was so angry. And again, we can take this as instruction that although we may sometimes feel defeated, even in devotional practices, sometimes we have so many obstacles and we're thinking we'll never overcome this. All the while, the Lord is there. We can be sure. And the situation will be rectified. We all have practical experiences of that in our devotional lives. We may be struggling with one issue or some other issue, but if we simply fix our minds, as here is described, Prabhupada gives that example, that verse, Satam Prasangam Amavirya Sangvido, by proper association and hearing, one will become fixed in devotional service. Of course, Rupa Goswami gives that same exact advice, right? Adosha Datta Sadhu Sangha. That you hear, and you hear from the proper sources, then eventually one becomes fixed in devotional life, and then devotional service begins. Then it starts to open up in a very beautiful way. So, Nrsimhadev was very, very angry. And the denizens of heaven, headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Indra, the Vidyadharas, the Charnas, the residents of Pitri-loka, there were so many uh, residents from different planets who came and offered their prayers. But Lord Nrsimhadev was still very, very angry. So, as we've heard, as the pastime goes, Lord Brahma approaches Prahlad and asks him to kindly go and see if you can pacify the Lord. Even Lakshmi Devi, she'd never seen such a form, and she was afraid. We can't go and stand before the Lord. The denizens of heaven, no one wanted to. Okay, Prahlad, can you please? So Prahlad, what is his response? Who, me? I'm just a 5-year-old boy. I can't. Who am I to go and offer prayers to the Lord? But I will. So he goes and prostrates himself before Lord Nrsimhadev, and the Lord picks him up and sets him on his lap and pats him on the head. And we can understand also from other, as Prabhupada explains later on in this whole pastime, that touch of the Lord empowered Prahlad to begin offering some very, very wonderful prayers. And Prabhupada points out that patting on the head, that touch of the Lord, makes the devotee fearless. And that is indicative of someone who has been graced by the Lord, that they become fearless and empowered to spread and preach Krishna consciousness. As here again, Prahlad was fearless. Although this material world is such a fearful place, right? Ahara nidra bhaya maitunangcha. The whole material world is all about living for the to develop one's sense gratification, and practically living like animals. Prahlad was, by that touch, he became fearless and began offering such very wonderful prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev, one of which is so often quoted by Srila Prabhupada, Naibodu Jai Parataratra Vaitaranyast Tadvira Gayana Mahamrita Magna Chitta, that the devotees of the Lord, they're not afraid of material existence because they're fully absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Lord, in His glories and activities. And therefore there's no fear. And instead, their anxiety is for the fools and rascals who are making all sorts of elaborate plans to maintain their families, their societies, their countries. And the anxiety is such that it's genuine. It's for love of them. It's out of great compassion that they feel that anxiety. Just as Prahlad, again, the pastime is so glorious that risking the rebuke of his father, he was prepared to preach to his classmates fearlessly. But it's not that in devotional life we, as thinking that, well, I can do whatever I want. No, there's still that saying, what is it? Fools rush in where angels tread lightly. Where angels fear to tread. So it's not that we just, without any reason, without any thought, rush in and do anything without considering the consequences or the dangers. No, one still has to be intelligent, even as servants of the Lord, knowing that Krishna will protect us. We still have to use our intelligence and be careful. And Prabhupada is a practical example of that. Prabhupada was prepared to go anywhere and everywhere for the service of preaching, but at the same time was cautious. He cautioned his followers that we follow certain societal rules to avoid trouble. You keep yourself healthy for preaching purposes. You keep yourself mentally fit for preaching services. We keep the temple fit for preaching purposes. So it's not that we just don't think, but at the same time we're knowing that Krishna is there and he'll protect us. So again, we're going to be hearing a lot more this evening, and would encourage all the Prabhus to please come. Any questions or comments? Maharaj.
Thanks for a wonderful class. You've whetted our appetite for this evening. I had one question, and that is, why should Lord Nrsimha be angry when actually it's to kill Hiranyakashipu was a piece of cake. He put him on his lap, and he tore him in half, and that was end of. Of course, they sparred a little bit at the beginning, but that was just, as you said, like a bird playing with a snake. But actually, he had nothing to be afraid of, since whatever power Hiranyakashipu had was being given by Nrsimha itself. So why should he even be angry? Could you maybe help us to understand that?
Krishna explains that also in Bhagavad Gita, that he protects his devotees. So to show how serious Krishna is about protecting his devotees, he exhibited that anger, just as he showed that anger on the battlefield when Bhishma was about to kill Arjuna. So it's not that Krishna's being controlled or governed by some mode or some anger or unduly reacting, but it's very controlled and instructive. So when Krishna does whatever he does, it's always very instructive. So in this case, at least from what I can understand, he's showing that the devotees should be fearless and be willing to risk whatever in the course of preaching. And if you offend those devotees, the Lord himself will become very angry, and he'll intercede. So you don't mess with the Vaishnavas. I remember one time, just one quick story. We were in Kansas City, and we were doing a downtown mall, and the shop owners and police were very antagonistic to the devotees. So much so that they would make a point of looking out for the Prabhus and arresting them. And this went on for not just 1 year, but repeatedly for some time. And finally, 1 year, it was Tripurari Das at the time, Brahmachari, and some other devotees. They were downtown doing Harinam. And again, the police came in and started roughing the devotees up and told them to get out of town, and otherwise you're going to be arrested and this and that. So the devotees immediately left, right? And just literally a short time afterwards, there was a huge deluge of rain in the downtown area, and it flooded the downtown area, and all the shops had to close down. There was another instance. I was with Prahlad and Nrsimha. We were in Memphis doing the airport, and there was this one fella who kept on harassing us all the time, and he would make a point of looking for the devotees who were distributing. It was just he and I, but he would look for us, and whenever we were talking to some person, he'd come up and disrupt the sale. And sometimes he would take books and rip them up in front of people. So many instances of this all over the place. But in this case, this fellow was really so antagonistic. One day, Prahladananda Swami was talking with one young fella, and the guy came out. He was a barber. There were two of them. There was a barber and an electrician. So the barber came out, and he started yelling real loud. I was just a short distance away, and I turned around, and the guy is faking that that Maharaj hit him. In the course of their discussion, their argument, the guy pretended like he got hit, and he called the police, and the police came and arrested Prahladananda Swami, and they took him to jail, and I bailed him out that evening. He was there for the whole night, practically throughout the whole night. And very late at night, I finally bailed him out. And the next day, Maharaj didn't go to the airport, but I did. The next day, this fellow was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't around for days. And finally, I asked one of the custodians. The guy came up to me and said, "Hey, you remember Bill, the barber?" And I said, "Yeah. Where is he? I haven't seen him for a long time." "Oh, yeah, the other day." And it happened right after this, right after the incident with Maharaj. "Oh, yeah, Bill the barber. He went home, he got into an argument, and his wife shot him in the head." And then there was the other guy that was the electrician, Eddie the electrician. He was, he would work always the gates at the parking areas, and he would do different fix-its inside the property. He did the same thing. He would always harass us when we were doing our sales, and he'd follow people who had gotten books, and he'd tell them, "Hey, don't, go and get your money back. These guys are like this and that." And so one day he came by, and I was talking to a young fella, and he just got so obnoxious and rude and everything else. He had the young boy give him the book, and he proceeded to tear it up. And he disappeared with the boy. And I just left, I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I went home. Gee, I can't get into these kind of people. So the next day I came back, and Eddie was nowhere to be seen. So I asked again, I spoke to one of the custodians. They were always friendly with us. They would pick up the extra books that were here and there, and we'd give them $1 or something and buy the book back. And he said, "Hey, where's Eddie? Oh, Eddie's nowhere. Yeah, Eddie, you didn't hear what happened to Eddie? He was out there working on the gates. It was raining outside. He got electrocuted. He was doing some electrical work outside, and it was raining." There's many stories out there, I'm sure. There's so many instances. But Krishna, he can also get angry when his devotees are disturbed. Such a Tanoi Prabhu. Everyone has such wonderful experience. Anyone who goes out and preaching can.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Experience.
Wonderful descriptions. And yes, I was just meditating and reflecting of the question of Maharaj. There are hundreds of stories of how the devotees, even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, got so angry in many different aspects when his devotees were mistreated or offended, so angry. Either things to his brother Nityananda, he came with a Sudarshan, very angry, when Srivas Pandi was also mistreated, and on and on. The Ramayana, the whole Ramayana, when Lord Ramachandra's wife was Sita, the whole city, Lanka, was burned by Hanuman, and you can find hundreds of stories. So it's a natural tendency, it's a natural thing to be, even in our present life. One time I was in Vrindavan, and I was going to touch a little calf, and the cow came and chased over me because he was angry. It's a natural for them to protect, so they get angry. But I have a reflection about how we, at least myself, I can say, devotees, when Lord Nishingadev appearance comes, we usually, I'm going to say again, we think about the external forces or demoniac mentality, when actually, sometimes ourselves, in a case myself, my mind is that it has the evil thoughts. So I take opportunity to actually pray to Lord Nishingadev to cure myself first, so I cannot see other things, or thinking the change started here, right here with me. And that was one of the teachings of, like Prahlad Maharaj didn't express any fear because he has equipoise, mind control, and he didn't see friends or enemies. And also, one time when Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture, this is told by Siddhanta in his memories, that one time one person asked, "How do you feel when you chant Hare Krishna?" Srila Prabhupada said, "I have no fear." So that's, this is coming, the seven cantos, Srila Prabhupada was very fond of that. So many instructions are there for us how to act, behave, apply it in our lives. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, that's in the first line in that purport is that Prabhupada says that when one has that consciousness, that fearlessness, then his preaching becomes effective. Prahlad's preaching became effective because of that fearlessness. Maharaj? And I think the young Prabhu there has a question also.
Thank you so much for the inspiring class.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the pillar.
Excuse me?
The pillar.
Something about the pillar?
Yes.
I don't know. Prabhupada, the pillar. The pillar. It was a simple pillar in the palace. that Hiranyakashipu was pointing to, and he was so angry and in his ignorance and his impudence. You think that God is everywhere? He must be in this pillar too, right? And Prahlad said, yeah, of course, he's everywhere. We know that. Okay, if that's the fact, I'm going to break this pillar, and we'll see if he's there. And if he is there, he'll save you, because you're going to go to the kingdom of death after this. So,
if the Lord is inside, He's outside, He's everywhere. So that He's inside, He's outside, He's everywhere. So it could have been any other place.
yeah, it happened to be a pillar. But that's a wonderful question. Thank you for that. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Well, there was only one point, but as a result of the last point, there is another thing. One thing I would like to make is that Prahlad Maharaj was not an ordinary devotee. He was a very special one. He learned the philosophy when he was in the womb of his mother, and he continued to perpetuate it, not only after he came out of as a little baby, but he was preaching to all the other kids who were there. And so, therefore, because he was so brave, he was so uncaring, he was fearless. He was ready to die at any given time. This pleased and impressed Lord Nrsimha very much. In other words, I said he was not an ordinary devotee. He was ready to die for his principles. And he never thought of himself as being great. He thought of himself as being small and insignificant and even worthless. So, as a result of so much affection that Prahlad gave, the Lord felt an obligation to him. He wanted to do something back for him. And that's exactly what he did. He took Hiranyakashipu. He didn't just take his fist and punch him and could have killed him right then and there, but he tore him in two pieces right on his lap, and took his intestines, wrapped them around his neck as if they were a japamala. So therefore, don't mess with Lord Nrsimha. He's very, very powerful. The other thing, I don't remember. Besides, it's too late. Thanks so much, Chuck.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj. One final point, and that Maharaj just brought up, that it was by the grace of his guru, Narada Muni, that Prahlad became so fearless. Because the question may arise, well, how can someone be so fearless?
Yeah.
Just thinking, that, of course, the Lord is there. But it was by the grace of his guru that he became, that he developed that understanding and that devotion. So it's by listening to the proper personalities and that listening, it develops into the proper understanding. And then devotional service, it blossoms so nicely. So it's by the grace of Narada Muni.
There are many scoffers who say that, oh, come on, you talk, baby can hear that inside the womb? Well, modern scientists have proved that to be true. Modern scientists, through hypnosis and a number of other things, where they actually show, after the child has been born, they had done tests while the child was in the womb, they had said certain things, they had done certain things and talked about those things, and then what happened was that they tested that same embryo who was now out of the womb and said, can you tell us anything about such and such? And he told them all about what they had talked about. So it's a true fact. It's a scientific fact. And if anybody scoffs at this, tell them to go to the scientific literature and they will see that, yes, a child can hear from the 7th month especially exactly what is told. It's a true story, in other words. It's not something made up for or something beyond,
Jai Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai.